Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Pint, a pop culture podcast. My name is John.
My name is Joey.
And my name is Mark.
And we are here today to talk about a movie celebrating its 40th anniversary. I don't know, what is that, paper? Is that gold? I don't know what that is.
It's glow.
It's glow.
The glow anniversary.
That works. It's the glow anniversary. That's right. We're talking about 1985's The Last Dragon.
Hey! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up!
All right, before we get into the production of The Last Dragon, got to ask you guys, because this is one, I saw it in the theaters. I've known this movie for many, many years. Joey, is this one that was there with you from the time you were a young tyke in 1985?
It sure was. I actually did not see it in the theaters. Where I saw it multiple times, and this is kind of regional, so if you have listeners across the globe and across the country, they're not going to quite understand. But in the early days of cable, we got channels from New York City.
Okay. Yeah.
I live in Western Massachusetts, so we got a couple of channels from New York City. One was Channel 9.
Yes.
One was Channel 11. And Channel 9 and 11 used to play movies on the weekend afternoons all the time. And The Last Dragon and The Warriors were on almost every weekend. And I must have seen this movie 100 times in my lifetime because it was always on TV and I always watched it. And it was probably until I got it on DVD and then eventually on Blu-ray that I actually saw it not edited for television.
Okay. All right.
Not that there's much to edit, but you know what I mean? Like without commercial breaks and anything and like swears taken out and stuff like that. So,
all right. Mark, you?
Yeah, I did see this in the theaters multiple times. I think right when I turned about 12 years old is when I was old enough to go to the movies by myself. My parents would just let me leave. And I went, if I had money, I went, hopped on a bus, then hopped on another bus and went to the theaters. I grew up in Chicago. So The Last Dragon was definitely one of those movies that it appealed to my young heart. And I went to see it and loved it and went back. And back in the day, you could go into the movies and stay there as long as you wanted to. They didn't like kick you out in between the shows. So I'm sure I saw The Last Dragon probably like 6 times on a big screen.
Did anybody start breakdancing in the aisle and you had to jump and stomp on their boombox?
Did they break dance in the aisle? Yes. Did I mess with anyone's boombox? No.
Did you eat your popcorn with chopsticks?
I did not, but man, I'm looking back at it now. I wish I had did that.
Would really stretch out the popcorn snacking experience one at a time, because popcorn is one of those things you always start like a couple at a time.
Yep.
And then within 5, you're like just handful into your eyeballs, like shoving popcorn in there.
Exactly.
All right. So The Last Dragon was released, and this is like almost the day we're recording this is March 8th. The Last Dragon was released on March 22nd of 1985. So we're almost right at the 40-year mark. Directed by a guy named Michael Schultz. He has some pretty big credentials, especially in the 70s kind of blaxploitation genre movies. Car Wash. He directed Car Wash.
Yep.
He directed Cooley High. If you're not familiar with Cooley High, it was essentially in long form the movie that inspired What's Happening. What's Happening being a favorite show of mine. And he also directed 2 years after this. That's right, the Fat Boys. Fat Boys. Disorderlies. So he's got a lot of cred over there. Written by a guy named Louis Vanasta. Louis Vanasta has done several things in his career. He doesn't have a lot of writing credits, but he has other credits. So he also wrote the Mel Gibson Goldie Hawn movie Bird on a Wire.
Wait, this is the second time this movie has come up this week.
Well, there you go. He was one of the featured dancers in the 1980 movie Fame, and he directed one episode of Grey's Anatomy at some point in his career. The filming, all I could find was April of 1984. I don't know how long it took, but at least it was filmed beginning in April of 1984. And this movie is true to form, a true New York City movie. I was watching the documentary that comes on the Blu-ray. It's called Return of the Dragon. And that is one of the things that's like very, I guess, near and dear to a lot of the people who made this movie's hearts and a lot of the fans, is that this isn't filmed in Toronto and it looks like New York. This is filmed in Harlem. The movie theater is a real movie theater from 42nd Street. This movie is very much, I guess, celebrated and looked at kind of looking backwards as being really multicultural, right? Like you didn't have a ton of movies like this back then where, you know, the hero is an African American, there's Asians, there's, you know, there are white people in it. There's a lot of different people coming together to make this movie and a lot of different characters. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about the cast.
Yes.
Allow myself to introduce myself.
I hope you like people with one fucking name, because we got a couple of them right off the bat. Our hero in this film, Leroy Green, also he's in the credits on IMDb. He's Leroy Green / Bruce Leroy, as if he's a superhero. Timac. Timac was a young martial artist who tried out for this movie, got it. He didn't do a whole ton of other things in the entertainment industry, but I can tell you that he has a black belt in. And this is not all he has a black belt in. I just wrote down a couple of them. Jeet Kune Do, Goju Ryu Karate, Hapkido, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So this guy's the real deal. And we were talking before we recorded, and we've all seen him at cons in the last few years. This guy looks fucking good. Like, this guy's probably pushing 60, and he looks like he's in really good shape still. UFC number 6 and number 7, way back in the day when you could still headbutt people and there's more blood and shit. In 1995... Timac officiated the preliminary fights in both of those. So at one point he was connected to the UFC as well. Oh. Back onto the first name kick, Vanity. Laura Charles. She plays Laura Charles. Vanity unfortunately died in 2016. I'm 95% sure Vanity is the first woman for me as like a 9-year-old white kid that realized I could like black women too. Like she's like, I don't know. You're young. You don't know how everything works. You don't know how everything's going. And I just remember being like, wow. She's fucking hot. Mm-hmm. She's very hot. She was in the Vanity. Was it Vanity 3 or Vanity 6?
Vanity 6.
Vanity 6, a group put together by Prince. And as you know, Prince, when he puts groups together for women, he then fucks them. And he fucked her for a while. He did. She is in Action Jackson, which is one of my favorite 80s action movies. Mm-hmm. How Do You Like Your Ribs? 52 Pickup with Roy Scheider. And a film I love. I saw this once a couple years ago during COVID. My buddy Scary Larry Dwyer used to do a Saturday night watch party on Facebook. I had never seen this movie before. Never Too Young to Die. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Joey, this is right up your fucking alley.
Oh.
John Stamos is the hero and Gene Simmons is the villain. And he plays like pardon me if I'm wrong on how I say this. I believe he's a transvestite. It's fucking crazy. John Stamos is like some kind of like young super secret agent, and Vanity is his girlfriend. It's crazy. You got to check it out. Never Too Young to Die. Julius Carey plays the Shogun of Harlem, Show Nuff. Show apostrophe Nuff. He also passed away, I think in the middle 90s. He was on The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. He was in Moving with Richard Pryor. And he was in The Man with One Red Shoe. So over on the Patreon, which I don't know if it's come out at this point or not, or if you've heard it, if you're not a patron, but we discussed American Ninja the three of us, and we talk about how Michael Dudikoff had no martial arts experience. He's the fucking American Ninja. That makes no sense. But it's very clear in that movie he's not a martial artist. Julius Carry is playing the baddest martial artist in New York City. He's not a martial artist, but at least he pulls it all off. And in the documentary, they could not use a stunt double because he was 6'7". So he does all his own stunts. And it looks pretty fucking good in the movie. So, all right. Christopher Murney plays villain supreme Eddie Arcadian, which until this viewing, I did not realize he's supposed to be like the arcade king of New York.
Right.
Arcadian. I never fucking put that together, ever.
God.
Never put that together.
I never put that together until just this moment.
Yeah. He was a guy who did a lot of like 80s television, The Equalizer, Kojak in the 70s, Miami Vice. Here's a name that a lot of you will probably know. Ernie Reyes Jr. plays Ty. Ernie Reyes Jr. is maybe, I don't know, a little bit older than a zygote in this movie. He is currently in 2025, 53 years old. He was in Red Sonja. He was Donatello, the stunt double Donatello, in the Turtles movie from 1990, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he was on a TV show that I absolutely loved that played for, I think, 1 or 2 years in the late 80s. With Gil Gerard called Sidekicks.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that one? Yeah, it got canceled. It was like a ABC thing. All right, couple more. Familiar face. Mike Starr plays Rock. You might know him from Dumb and Dumber, Ed Wood, and Bad Santa 2. He also in this movie has, and just something about this movie I'd forgotten. What's in the tank? What is that is it piranha?
It's supposed
green.
to be a giant piranha.
It's green water.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck is in that tank, Mark?
I just assumed it was a weird sea creature, not a piranha, not a one big piranha, but just like some kind of creature that you don't need to know what it is. You just need to know what it does.
There's two kind of supernatural mythical elements in this movie. One of them is the glow, which relates to the plot. And we don't even see that till the end of the movie. And the other one is the fact that he has a sea creature of some sort in a tank in his office. All right. Jim Moody plays Daddy Green. He was in DC Cab, Lean on Me, and he was also in Fame. And then finally, Faith Prince plays Angela Veraco, who is a up-and-coming pop star akin to kind of a shitty Cyndi Lauper. I didn't put anything for film or TV. She is a Broadway queen, actually.
Yeah.
Annie from 2013 to 2014, The King and I in 1996, Guys and Dolls in 1992. She won the Tony for Best Actress in Guys and Dolls, and she was nominated 2 more times in 01 and 08. And then you cannot not mention this because I did not know this until this viewing. But William H. fucking Macy.
Yes.
I knew that.
Yes.
I did not know that. But even crazier, he has a speaking line. He's in one scene where he talks. Chaz Palminteri is in this fucking movie. I didn't know that either. He has a little bit less to do, unless you want to consider getting kicked through a like an open car window and stuck in the door. But I never knew that. You knew this?
Yeah.
Okay. And Mark, did you know that
William
Macy?
William H. Macy I knew because I watched this movie not that long ago. So when he popped up, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Chaz Palminteri, I did not catch
Mustachioed.
until this one. Yeah.
I and the only reason I even caught it is because when I was doing my research, I read that they had small parts in it. William H. Macy's obvious. He looks just like, DH William H. Macy. Chaz Palminteri, you have to catch it.
Yeah.
Because so I read it and I'm like, I'm going to watch this whole movie because it said he was thug number 2 or something. And then when the limo driver turns around, it's like, your normal limo driver. I'm like, is that fucking Chaz Palminteri? That's insane. All right. So New York City, middle 80s, and we meet our hero, Bruce Leroy Leroy Green, aka Bruce Leroy. Mark, how do we find him? What is he doing and who's he hanging out with in the very first scene?
The very first scene, he's training with his sensei / master, who's helping him with his training by shooting arrows at them.
Yeah,
and he's able to, and Bruce Leroy is able to snap the arrows out of the sky, chop them out of the sky as they're flying towards him.
So we get a training montage. He's doing flips. He's doing stuff like that. Arrows flying at him. He chops them out of the sky. Eventually, the master tells Leroy that he's done with him. He's doesn't need to teach him anymore. But what does he kind of tell him based on Leroy's reaction to that, Joey? He can tell obviously he's disappointed that the training's over.
Oh, that he needs to go find another master.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another master named Some Dumb Goy. takes off a patch off of Leroy's shirt. That's like another dragon.
Yep.
He has this nifty little thing that's like all these patches that go around. Like Bruce Leroy is now like an Eagle Scout of like martial arts, right? He's like, you broke the brick with your fist. You were able to jump over the flaming hoop.
Right.
And now, you're here. And he explains to him, to become the last dragon, the master, you have to go and kind of like reconcile all of this and find a new master. But he also tells him of a mythical quality that all of these masters attain, Joey. What is that?
The glow.
The glow. What's the glow all about?
I don't know how to describe it. When you become the master, you will have a glow about you.
A glow will bathe your body.
That's right.
And if you're not familiar enough with the concept of the glow, don't worry, because a song in the movie called The Glow
That's right.
will explain to you what the glow is multiple times.
Which is an amazing song.
The soundtrack to this was, for me as a kid, I had this tape. Me and my friends listened to it all the fucking time. It's important, I think, to mention that who's this movie produced by, Mark?
It's produced by Motown head Barry Gordy.
And is this, I didn't look this far, so maybe you know this, I don't know this. Is this the only movie he ever really produced? Because, like, it's all over. Like, it's Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon.
I don't think it is. I think he's produced more movies, but I think this was a time where they needed to, The Last Dragon isn't based on a TV show or a comic book or anything like that. So you need a name to kind of set it off. If Barry Gordy is big in music, if you're in the 80s, you're selling some soundtracks. Like that's the goal. So if you put a music name in front of the title, I think that's probably why they put it on there. But I'm sure he's done other movies. Probably nothing as big or as good as this one.
According to Letterboxd, nothing you've heard of except for The Wiz with Michael Jackson in it.
Oh, okay.
See?
All right. I did read, not read, I'm sorry. I saw on the documentary on the Blu-ray that he handpicked Timac. He handpicked a lot of the actors and actresses. He handpicked Vanity. Mm-hmm. He signed her to a record contract as well. His son, Kerry Gordy, is the one who put the soundtrack together. And the soundtrack, whether you know some of these songs, I love like Upset Stomach by Stevie Wonder, and I love The Glow, and I love The Last Dragon. But like this movie launched fucking Rhythm of the Night. Like DeBarge.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we will get to that. Leroy learns that he has to go out and kind of find this. The master also gives him what appears to be some kind of medallion, and you've got it when you get to the new master, he's going to have the other half, and you're going to kind of like, this is where you're going to learn everything. So now we have your hero's journey. That's what this film is.
My favorite part about this is he leaves the master's school or whatever.
Houseboat?
On a boat.
Yeah.
The soundtrack immediately is like, you will not find the master. It's inside of you. It's like, thank you for the fucking spoiler.
It tells you right off the bat where he's going to find everything.
I never noticed that until this watch either, that the soundtrack song immediately after he leaves just spoils the entire film.
I don't even know if I noticed that.
It'd be like if John Williams had a song in Star Wars. It's like, Darth Vader is your father. Don't worry about it. And it would be like playing on Tatooine in episode 4. Like,
yeah.
Come on, bro. What are you doing?
Soundtrack spoilers. You don't get a lot of that.
It's kind of like looking at the back of the CD for episode 1 and seeing Qui-Gon's funeral on there.
I remember that. I remember when that was a big deal. Yeah.
Damn you, John Williams.
Yeah, don't look at soundtracks, especially the orchestral scores, because they tend to have like very plaintive names, like like Tony Stark dies. Like, oh fuck, Endgame comes out in 3 days. I wish I didn't look at that. Tony Stark dies in parentheses. He really fucking dies. He ain't coming back. So we kind of start to meet all the different characters in Leroy's life. I think it's just funny because it's only mentioned once in this movie, but I always feel like I remember it the most. Mark, his parents have a business. It's a pizza business. It's pizza with fucking string beans on it? Is that what they say? Or bean sprouts?
Bean sprouts.
Bean sprouts.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a traditional pizza joint, but they do kind of a specialty thing with bean sprouts.
Okay. Because I was thinking, for some reason, from all the times I'd seen this movie as a kid, I had it in my head that like that was the whole thing, was like they made the bean sprout pizza, but that is not. That is not. So we meet his family. By the way, speaking of more cameos, Keisha Knight Pullum is his little sister, Rudy, and this is right around the time of the Cosby Show. He also teaches martial arts classes, and we get to meet some of his students. One of them in particular is, I think, fucking hands down funny ass character. It's Johnny Yu, who in the documentary I watched, also I didn't realize, actor's name is Glenn Eaton. He was Barry Gordy's wife's brother.
Wow.
That's how he got the job. He
Wow.
really didn't do a whole lot more after that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I noticed about this, and this is just a screenwriter thing, I think it's something you learn when you get older, is that he refers to himself in the movie multiple times as Oriental.
Yeah.
Oriental is not a reference to a person. It's a reference to a thing or a place. So I just thought that was funny. I thought like if this movie came out today, people would freak out over it. I get it. It's a little bit older when it was a little bit more stretched out. But Joey, we also have the bad side. Tell us all about Shonuff and the Shogun.
Oh my God. So, they go to a movie theater and I was dying, but the movie theater makes me laugh every single time. It's so rowdy. Everybody's screaming and yelling.
Yeah,
and
I would
stuff. It reminded me of like a bad movie theater experience that we talk about on our show until the karate started. Bruce Leroy is just sitting up front eating his popcorn with his chopsticks, and here comes the Shogun of Harlem, Shonuff. It's just one of the greatest villains in the history of cinema.
He's awesome.
Extremely tall guy dressed like you think he's going to be dressed for a Shogun in the 80s. He's got a weird crew with him of like
guys and
like
chicks,
guys and girls, and they're all like they look like they just walked out of like early 80s music video. They look like the bad guys in the background of the Beat It video.
He has a great collection of football shoulder pads.
Right.
But he wears it with nothing else.
Dressed weird, and he's just so like charismatic. You almost wish like they made a movie about him where you could cheer for him because he's fucking great. And he has this whole thing where he's like, "Am I the baddest?" And they all go, "Shonuff." It's absolutely classic. And he shows up at the movie theater. He wants to fight Bruce Leroy. Obviously, Bruce won't fight him because he doesn't believe in that. So he just starts fighting random members of the audience, and it's fucking fantastic.
It's again, I'll reference it again. If you're not a patron, go check us out on Patreon/The Pint. $2.50 a month. It's affordable. And you can hear us talk about American Ninja on there. It's American Ninja. It's a movie called American Ninja, and the fight scenes all kind of suck.
Yeah, they're horrible.
And this movie made the same year. The fight scenes, although I think there's, I don't want to say sparse, but there's not as many as you might think, or at least maybe what they would put out like maybe this year for like an action film, but they're all good.
Yeah.
They're all good in this movie. And the movie theater battle is really good there's two levels. A lot of good fights. You get, like I fucking love when he goes up there and he's talking and like some of the guys in the audience start to like, boo him. And the two fat guys, the guy wearing the pink shirt that's up to his fucking...
he's wearing like basically like a sports bra.
He's wearing a sports bra. They get up and then there's the big guy who looks like he might be Native American or something. And they all get up there and they end up getting their asses beaten.
I love that the big guy's girlfriend is clearly a drag queen.
Yes. Yes.
Like, not the face, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's funny about that is last night watching the movie, and I'm sure watching it in like probably my 30s and 20s, but I thought to myself watching it, I'm like, when I was like 9 or 10, I was probably like, what's wrong with that lady?
Yeah.
Like,
no idea.
And I don't mean wrong. Don't take it that way. I just meant this lady seems different than most ladies I'm used to seeing. And now I'm like, oh, that's a fucking dude. 100%.
I love that some random guy runs down, jumps in the air to get on the stage, Shonuff immediately just kicks his ass.
Yeah.
He was like, whoa, yeah, for this badass guy, nope. And then he's distracted and some random other guy just jumps in and kicks him in the chest and he kips up and just beats the crap out of him.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's great. It's great.
The other level that makes that scene great, Mark, is what is playing at the movie theater and actually the actual fucking movie, which I guess Barry Gordy must have thrown out some of that fucking Motown money to get rights to.
It is a Bruce Lee movie. I don't know which one it was. I can't remember.
Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon. His only American film.
That's right.
Yeah, his only American film. Like the one that actually kind of solidified his stardom here in America, and then he died like the same year. Yeah. Have you never seen Enter the Dragon?
That's one of the movies that I didn't see it growing up.
Yeah.
But I made myself watch it when they brought it back to the theaters,
Okay.
probably like 10 years ago, I think, right around there. And I'm like, I've never seen this movie, so I might as well, if I'm going to watch it, I might as well watch it now.
Okay.
I did see it on the big screen.
All right, because I was going to say, if you've never seen it before, you're coming back. We're doing Enter the Dragon. So Shonuff kind of leaves. We didn't really mention it, Joey, but what's Leroy's overall demeanor and his attitude? How is he?
He's just very calm and into peace. And He does not want to fight for like pride or anything. Like Shonuff wants to beat him because Shonuff wants to be the greatest. Everybody needs to know that he's the best in
Right.
Harlem. Whereas Bruce Leroy doesn't care about that, so he won't fight him. So that's kind of one of the cruxes of the story is Shonuff wants to defeat Bruce Leroy in combat so that people will say Shonuff is the best fighter.
Right.
Bruce Leroy just won't fight him because he's not that kind of guy. He doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So,
it's some little kid's fault too. Some little kid, who's bad enough to beat me? And some little kid's like, Bruce Leroy can beat you. Like, shut up, kid.
Thought that was Webster, to be honest with you.
picked up the kid and just like handed him off. Great.
Thought that was Emmanuel Lewis.
No, he was too busy burning his house down.
So, okay.
That was the apartment. Sorry.
I have a question about the, I guess, rivalry or what Shonuff wants from Leroy. He says something that kind of foreshadows something that happens at the end of the movie that makes me think, did this happen before? Did he catch a bullet in his teeth at some point before he had the glow?
No.
Okay.
No, that's just like...
Do you think that's like urban legend?
Yeah, it's an urban legend that sounds cool.
I wish, it's one of like my little takeaways is I just wish maybe through the movie you'd heard that more, and then maybe you'd heard someone say, that's obviously an urban legend. Because it's such a weird line. And then, like, spoiler, it happens at the end of the movie.
Dude, that is screenwriting 101. You set it up,
gun.
you pay it off.
Yeah, they do pay it off for sure. Let's talk a little bit about, because there's a lot of stuff happening in this movie.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Eddie Arcadian and what he wants. We'll go to Mark for that. And then we'll talk to Joey about, what is her name again? Vanity. What's Vanity's name in this?
Laura Charles.
Laura Charles and Seventh Heaven. So, okay. We'll start it with Joey because he has to set up who Laura Charles is and what she has, her version of Soul Train. What's going on there?
Oh, my God. So I was watching this today, and my wife came in the room, and she's like, why are you watching this now? And I'm like, I have to be on a podcast tonight and record about it. And she's like, you've seen this movie a million times. Like, you don't need to watch it, do you? And I'm like, I want to make sure I'm prepared, And as I was watching it, I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know how this plays to people younger than us that are watching it. Like, I would want my son to watch this with me. Because, it's hilarious and one of my favorite movies. It's legitimately in my top 20 movies of all time. But, like, he has no concept of, like, what she's doing.
Saturday afternoon, like, dance shows and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't even conceptualize a world where you would sit down and watch music videos on a TV and watch a show where just random people are dancing to songs. Like, you can't conceptualize that. But she has some show that's kind of like a hybrid of MTV and American Bandstand.
Yep.
Do people even know what American Bandstand is?
I do. That's all that matters.
All right, well, maybe it's more like Dance Party USA. Do people know what Dance Party USA is?
You're fine. Our listeners lean a little older.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, we're getting on a tangent, but I worked in an office with a woman that was from Australia a few years ago, and she loved New Kids on the Block, and I was like, I remember when they were on Dance Party USA, clearly lip syncing, and she's like, what is that?
What's Dance Party USA?
Yeah, she had no idea, and so she started watching it on YouTube. She's like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
She's like, what's the Cartoon Express?
That's right. Like they just didn't have that. And
What's Silk Stockings?
That used to be my wife's favorite TV show.
Really?
Yes.
Mitzi Capture.
Yeah, good times. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know how it plays, but in theory, she runs a nightclub that is where a hybrid of Dance Party USA and MTV is filmed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And apparently the idea is if she plays a video,
Right.
she's a star maker.
Right.
Right.
So in the 80s, it was very popular for songs to be featured in movies and then to get a video that shows clips of the movie that the song was in.
Right.
This might be the first movie that stops the movie to show the video of the song that's from the movie.
Yeah.
There's a whole
Movie
2 minutes.
reaches to a halt so we can watch the El DeBarge video.
Yes. And it happens again
Amazing.
later with that. Okay, we'll get to it in a second. So Eddie Arcadian and his girlfriend, Mark, what does he want with Laura Charles?
Well, first, I just want to say I love the fact that the movie stops to play the Barge video because that is the actual video. Like they filmed the video before they did the movie,
Yeah.
and then the movie comes out and the soundtrack is huge. That's the actual music video. It's amazing marketing. I love that.
I would just like to state that despite the fact that I only really listen to heavy metal and punk.
Yeah.
El DeBarge, Rhythm of the Night is in my top 5 favorite songs of all time. I fucking love that song.
It's a good one.
It is so good. I don't know if he wrote it himself or it was written for him by Motown and he performs it, but that song is amazing. It plays at work. I have to control myself from singing and dancing around the store. I have loved that song probably since I saw this movie. It was probably my first experience with it, but in my top 5 favorite songs.
It got him Janet Jackson, man, right? He married. Right?
Well, see, the DeBarge is a family like the Jacksons.
Oh, was it his
And there's-
brother?
Right.
Okay.
There's multiple DeBarge, and watch the video, you'll see his brothers and his sisters are
Tito
around.
DeBarge.
One of the DeBarges did get Janet Jackson.
Jermaine DeBarge.
All right, so
We never got a DeBarge cartoon, unfortunately.
the DeBarge story is a long and very dramatic thing. You don't want to go down that. Well, you would probably go down that rabbit hole.
I mean,
but
maybe. Is it as good as Bad Baby fighting Travis Barker's daughter?
it's a lot worse.
Oh, wow.
I saw some of that, yeah.
Well, all I can say is that song is fucking phenomenal, and that's all I have to add to that.
If I can go 1 month without bad behavior popping up anywhere, I'd be fine. I'd be totally fine. Okay, so Eddie Arcadia is a promoter. He wants to believe in the next big talent. And this time, his talent is going to be a singer who's very much like a Cyndi Lauper type of performer. Unique, colorful, and it's kind of, well, I don't want to say sexy, but leaning into that sex appeal thing.
So his girlfriend is trying to become a pop star. He also hangs out with this guy, Rock, who we kind of learn and determine that at one point he was going to be like the next big fighter. He had a bad fight, and Eddie just kind of like gave up on him. Some of the dialogue supports that a little bit later on.
Styled after Jerry Cooney.
Yeah, the Great White Hope.
Yep.
So he decides that he's got to get this video on, and I think everything starts off with where he asks her and she says no, right? Is that why he tries to kidnap her the first of 7 times?
He invited her to dinner so he could present to her what he wants.
Right.
And she didn't want to go.
And he says this twice in the movie. His way of getting this woman to go to dinner to learn all this is that you can order a la carte.
Yeah.
He says a la carte 2 fucking times. Like that is like we're going to go to like, I don't know if you guys had it up in Mass, but do you have Bonanza steakhouses?
Oh yeah.
Or where you would get the tray and like be like, oh, I'll have the pistachio pudding with the whipped cream on it.
Yep.
Like, oh, this is big time. This is big time.
Again, we're getting on another tangent.
It's okay. Tangents live when we record live.
All right.
Tangents on the Pint have always lived when we record live. It's easier to do.
So now, again, I'm going to age myself, and I swear to your listeners, we're hip wow now. We're really cool guys. But Kmart used to have a restaurant attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
It was the Kmart Family Restaurant, which then became the Kmart Islander Restaurant. I don't know what the difference was, but they had a cart they would wheel around and show you the desserts. The desserts were under glass in it, and I remember being like 5. And we just bought a new Masters of the Universe figure, and now we're going to eat all-you-can-eat fried fish at the Kmart restaurant. And then they wheel out the dessert cart. And it's like, whoa, this is a real deal, man. This is fancy shit.
Coconut cream pie for 2.
Right. Some submarine sandwiches wrapped in plastic. I don't know why they tasted so much better because they were wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, we had Cromwell, Connecticut, near where I grew up in Middletown. They had the Kmart, had the restaurant attached to it.
Right.
I'm sure we ate there once or twice. There's something about store restaurants. I like IKEA. The meatballs. I can go to IKEA just to eat the meatballs.
Hey, man, Zayre's didn't have a fucking restaurant.
No, and neither did Ames. And what happened to both of them? Fucking gone.
Well, Kmart's gone, too.
But Kmart hung in because of the restaurant.
Lasted the longest.
Sears bought Kmart based on having the restaurant. They're like, we're not sure if this is a good idea. And it ended up putting them under too. So, all right. So he decides because she won't do it that he's going to have her kidnapped. And the first kidnap attempt is after her show where she presents videos and also sings a song. We also meet Leroy's brother, his younger brother, who considers Leroy to be a square, and he's very hip, and he's in love with Laura Charles. That's like kind of like a small subplot that runs through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. She's leaving. She gets into a limo, and she finds out that the limo driver is not her limo driver. It's fucking mustachioed evil Chaz Palminteri. This is only 5 minutes after she just can talk to her manager, William H. Macy. So you get both of those cameos, or at least not. They're not even cameos.
I just love that the entire plot of this is based on please play my terrible music video.
100%.
Right.
Yes.
And the other funniest part about it is that subplot ends halfway through, and Eddie Arcadian just becomes obsessed with killing Bruce Leroy for like that is the reason, but like she leaves him halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
That video is never going to get played now.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no reason to really go forward.
He's a businessman that owns arcades that wants his girlfriend's terrible music video to be popular, and now he's going to kill everyone.
So,
But I do wonder
Big
what
jump.
he had over William H. Macy, because his character was like, Laura, you have got to play this video.
He's afraid of him.
You don't know what's going to happen to me if you don't play this video. And then
in the piranha tank.
Yeah.
he disappears for the rest of the
Mike
movie.
Starr puts him in a fucking headlock with those fucking sweaty armpits, and Macy's like, "Fuck this." So they attack her, and much like in typical Batman fashion, Leroy shows up and saves the day. And another little good fight scene. These guys have no juice. He just kicks the shit out of them.
Yeah. But you can tell when you're watching this, especially having just watched American Ninja the night before, that Timac knows how to fight
100%
correctly. Like
100%.
And even for an older movie, and this is a huge pet peeve of mine with recent movies, you get all these quick cuts and they're hiding the fact that the star can't fight. Even this being an older movie, they still have centered the camera correctly, so you can see him kick people and do his moves and stuff, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, me too. It's filmed very well. So Laura Charles is saved by Leroy, and it couldn't be any more obvious on any earth that her basement is so flooded by him. She is so excited by him. She thinks that he is the greatest thing ever, and all he cares about is finding the master.
Right.
She is throwing herself at him.
It really reminds me of my sex life before I met my wife.
I'm same thing. I look back on, prior to me being married, and I look back sometimes like even like as far back as high school, and I look back on it now and go, what the fuck was wrong with you? Like, yes, okay, it's okay to be not confident, but when someone's like, just figure it out, you know, but I can't time travel, and life is life.
I'm never look back and say, oh, I wish I did this, wish I did that kind of guy, and not like that. But, they're in the same way. And there's moments in life in my past where I'm like, oh, that chick was trying to bang.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was just like, oh, man, I want to go play NBA Jam. I just completely oblivious. So, I mean, it worked out for the best, but Jesus Christ, I lost out on some prime poontang in my teen years.
He also disappears like Batman as soon as he saves her life.
Yes.
But he realizes that he left something there. Mark, what did he lose?
He lost the gold medallion that he's supposed to be giving to the new master.
So he eventually has to go back and see Laura Charles again. And this is all interspersed with more Eddie Arcadian kidnapping attempts.
Right.
Is it 2 or 3? How many times does he try to get her?
I think it's 3.
Yeah,
He finally gets her in the last time, because there's one where they have a work van set up and they're trying to get her into that, and there's a lot of fucking comical kidnap attempts going on in this movie. So in one of their next encounters, he ends up going to her club, and she clearly has been thinking about him and prepared for him, because what has she edited and put together with some fucking incredible. This scene actually, again, I make it sound like I'm making fun of it. It's actually really good, but what does she put together for him?
Multiple scenes of different Bruce Lee movies, kind of showcase a little bit of his action scenes, the lighting, the laser effects, and it also gives Bruce Leroy the idea of how he can accomplish his goal of meeting the new master.
Meeting the master.
Based on a scene from a Bruce Lee movie that isn't an action scene.
Right. He's disguising himself to infiltrate a place. It also ends with a flower opening. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Like the big time hint. She's like, now you've seen all your Bruce Lee stuff. Now fucking put it in my pussy. Yeah. But he still doesn't really get it yet at this point. Shonuff shows up again, and he shows up at the pizzeria, Joey.
Yeah.
He just fucking fucks this place up. Chops a table in half.
Yep.
And
destroys the video machine.
Which Papa Green doesn't even own.
Right.
He said, I don't even own that. But one of the best parts is his mom goes on the offensive with fucking dough. His mom starts throwing fucking pizza dough at Shonuff and his people.
That scene has one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. Because when Shonuff shows up, he has his crew, and it's the thing, am I the bad? Who's the baddest? Shonuff. Right? They know the call and response. They say Shonuff every time he asks. But when he gets to the pizza place and he talks to Daddy Green, and Daddy Green's like, "Who are you?" And Shonuff's like, "Who am I?" And his crew is like, "Shonuff." Yeah. They don't charge. They kind of halfway say it's is that us? Is that us? Is that our line? Shonuff. Fucking died when I saw that.
Leroy shows up eventually, but he's too late. The place has been trashed.
Yep.
The little brother blames him.
Well, maybe I'm giving the movie too much credit, but I love the fact that the insanity of whatever's happening to Bruce Leroy. Mm-hmm. So he's going to he's trying to learn the glow, and he's catching bullets in his teeth, and Shonuff is the shogun of Harlem.
Right.
All that stuff is happening. Meanwhile, there's also a whole nother world of people just living their lives and running a pizza place. And this is where they all intersect all of a sudden. Like if you're just at work one day and some guy comes in proclaiming himself the shogun of like Bridgeport, Connecticut. You're just like, what is happening right now?
I thought we agreed this wasn't going to interfere in our real lives.
Right. Like,
we could do the shogun shit outside of here.
Right.
But I got to make pizzas right now.
Right,
Yeah. Eddie Arcadian keeps on comically not being able to get Laura Charles, so he puts on like a good old fashioned 80s, I don't know, audition for bad guys. Mark, we get a guy who thinks he's a dog, right?
Yes, and a guy who just barks. I felt like this was all just a showcase for, because I'm pretty sure wrestling was like a big deal at this time. So this felt like a showcase for, let's get a few wrestlers in here. And just have them kind of show off as something that, if you know Bruce Leroy is down with karate, then you've got to be anticipating what's going to happen when he meets this 8-foot tall wrestler.
I know that the end result has got to be Eddie Arcadian eventually hiring Shogun, the Shogun of Harlem.
Yes.
I know that. So like these guys technically are not going to play too much of a role. They do have like the final fight scene in the discotheque. Mm-hmm. But I kind of wish there was maybe like 3 more minutes with like more of these guys. Like you only really meet the dog guy. You see a few more of them, like the fucking giant fat Santa Claus dude that they take his pants off during the fight scene. But I kind of wish that if we were going to have like the Empire Strikes Back bounty hunter scene, we got to at least meet a couple more of them. So that is exactly what ends up happening. Eddie Arcadian goes to Shonuff and offers him a small suitcase of money, but he doesn't want the fucking money. He just wants him to set him up to be able to take on Leroy. Now, I think it's important to mention that earlier in the movie, Leroy tried to get into this fortune cookie company that's called Some Dumb Goy, which he is convinced of the master is like kind of working there or owns the place. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 guys that are hanging out front singing a song that when watching the documentary, Kerry Gordy said he just came up with a bunch of like random, almost like nonsensical Asian sounding words and made a song out of it, like sukiyaki and all that stuff. These guys, what do you think of these guys, Mark?
It was a different time back in 84, 85 when this movie was made. There isn't anything, I'm going to have to tread very, very lightly here. There isn't anything that's like overtly offensive about these 3 guys who live in Harlem, who want to appropriate the surroundings that they're in.
Yeah.
Right. And it also is nothing to have like if you live in certain neighborhoods, it's nothing to have like a Korean-owned shop or an Asian-owned shop in certain neighborhoods. So the fact that this is a movie about the movie has a main star that's a black guy who's very much influenced by Asian culture. It seems only kind of fair to have like an Asian representation or an Asian group that kind of likes black culture. It kind of seems like a not tit for tat, but kind of just to even it out a little bit.
Did you ever watch that documentary on the Blu-ray?
I don't know. I don't think I got to that part.
They had 2 of those guys on there, the actors, and that's exactly what they say.
Oh, really?
They say this is a story where the hero is a black guy who is kind of appropriating Asian culture, and this is New York City. And so it's very, kind of like tit for tat, like you said, that you have these 3 guys that are kind of going the opposite way.
Right.
I think they're funny. I think they're funny. They're playing craps. They're smoking weed, which as a kid I didn't get. As a kid, I probably just thought, oh, that guy's smoking a cigarette. That's not good for him. No, there's actually several. There's like the Rasta guy in the movie theater too, who's got a giant blunt. Like, oh, there's some pot in this movie.
Yes.
So Joey, he decides, because the first time they won't let him in, he decides he's going to go in this time. What is his disguise and his ruse?
I don't even know how to describe it, Mark.
He's
dressed like a stereotypical like 80s black guy delivering their pizza. So I don't want to think the movie's that deep where he's like, okay, I can trick these guys by being what they think black people are. as opposed to what they actually are. But yeah, he's dressed like he looks like he just walked. He looks like C. Thomas Howell and Soul.
He kind of does. He kind of does, and he's
Bring up
also
something else offensive.
he's also practicing like what it is. Like he's trying to like come up with like So he gets in and they see right through him right off the bat.
Of course.
So he brings them a bean sprout pizza. They offer to play craps. They play craps, but it's like a version of craps with hopscotch involved, which I thought was funny. And then he says, "Okay, is it time to see the master?" And they lead him out into the alleyway and say, "Okay, wait out here and we'll let you know." They go back inside and they're like laughing at him. And this is the only time that we see fucking Leroy get pissed.
Yeah.
He kicks the door in and he's just like, grabs him. He's like, "Where's the fucking master?" And they have to explain to him who is the master, Mark.
It is a computer that's making fortune cookies.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still, even to this day, I'm still not sure what that is. Like they open the door and these guys work in this factory, but it's just like a conveyor belt. And then like the fortune pops up on a dot matrix screen.
Right.
It's kind of like how the Animatrix started, I think. Their use of this computer in the back room.
So they essentially tell him, "Look, this has been a lie all along. We just made up some dumb goy to sell more fortune cookies. I don't know if that would work on me buying fortune cookies. I don't know if I would be like, oh, that there's an actual like Chinese master writing these fortunes. I'll pay more. I've never paid for a fortune cookie. It just comes with my fucking food."
Right.
So I just thought that was weird. But so Leroy is like, okay, he's a little bit depressed, a little bit pissed off. He goes and sees his master. And what does the master tell him at this point, Mark?
Is it the...
He's packing and he's leaving.
Leaving for Miami.
Yeah, he's going to visit his mom in Miami.
How old is his fucking mom? That dude's easily 72. His mom is 100. Good for her.
Seriously, dude. I'm sure she's a ripe old age of 110 and probably will kick anyone's ass.
Yeah.
Probably take a... If she was sitting in a movie theater, she would have stood up and fought show enough at some point.
He got kicked in the face. So he tells him essentially that like you had to look inside, like that. Right. That's he kind of gives him a little bit more of a roundabout way of saying it, but like you have to kind of look inside and all this stuff, and this is where you have to go with it to finally attain the rank of master. And he's like, well, what about this medallion? And earlier in the movie, someone made a joke about it being a belt buckle. It is a belt buckle. He's like, I use this to keep my pants up, and so he ends up leaving there. Now, meanwhile, Eddie Arcadian's girlfriend just gets tired of his shit because he's a mad person now. He's trying to hire people to kill Leroy. And she doesn't want anybody to fucking die.
Right.
So she leaves him. I love the scene where she leaves him because she calls him a midget. She fucking blasts this dude.
Yep.
He makes fun of her for being from like Kew Gardens, like Queens. And she's like, you are too.
Yeah.
And then she goes to the dojo to warn Leroy that Arcadian's going to try to kill him. Did either of you guys think, now I know we've all seen this movie a million times, but if you watch this with fresh eyes, did you think there was a chance that Johnny was going to fuck her? It seemed like they were trying to make this like thing happen. Joey, did you feel that way?
Now watching it felt like he was flirting with her.
Yeah.
She's kind of gross. So
yeah, but I still felt like he was going for it. But
why not?
Yeah, well,
the 80s.
Yeah.
So she tells him and she leaves. So now Leroy knows what's going on. He goes back. How does he find out that Laura's been kidnapped again? Because Laura's been finally kidnapped, right? Does Arcadian tell him? I can't remember. But he knows he has to go to Seventh Heaven to save Laura. He goes back to the dojo and he locks Johnny up because Johnny wants to help him, but he tricks him into a closet. Because Johnny, this is also confusing. Johnny has made it clear he doesn't seem to know martial arts in this movie at all until the end when he's fucking really good at martial arts.
The whole side joke with him is he doesn't know a lick of martial arts, but he can do a really great Bruce Lee impression by like yelling and making noises and the way he moves, but he can't fight for anything.
But he can use the nunchucks. So
worry about it.
So Leroy shows up, dresses up in a ninja costume, shows up at Seventh Heaven all by himself. And then we get like the screens pop up and Eddie Arcadian is like a comic book villain all of a sudden. And all of the wrestlers and everybody show up and we get a big fight scene.
Yes.
Who shows up to help Bruce out? To help Leroy out?
He gets all of his students, including Ernie Reyes Jr., to just kicking ass as a little kid.
Dude, he's so fucking good.
He's
so
fantastic.
He's so good in this whole little bit of this movie. He's funny in the rest of it. Like when he comes and lets Johnny out of the closet, and then he's like, "Oh, we missed the second show." Like he's just a little kid. But then, honestly, as weird as it might sound, the scene where they all run into the fucking dojo, I get like goosebumps because like you just know what's going to happen. So
it's a great fist pump moment.
It is.
It's been built up well throughout the movie.
Yeah. So we get this big fight and we get a bunch of different people fighting. And again, the highlight is, yes, we see at this point, we do see Leroy fighting, but the highlight in this is Ernie Reyes Jr.
Yes.
And the moves he's doing, and he ends one move with, like by popping and locking and stuff. And really, like I said, he's a zygote, but he's probably, I would probably say he's probably 10, but looks 7.
Yeah.
He's me and Ernie Reyes Jr. and myself are closely around the same age.
Wait, okay, hold on. So he's 53 now, and he's 13 about.
Yeah.
But he looks 6.
Yeah,
He looks like he's like
6 or 7.
Yeah, he looks like a tiny kid.
Okay, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, he's 53 now. So they kind of clear everything out, but Arcadian takes Laura and moves her like across the street to a warehouse location.
Yep.
So they go to the warehouse location, and Leroy follows them over there. His brother follows as well. Joey, kind of move us into this part here.
Well, this is where they have set up for Leroy to fight Shonuff. This is what he wanted to be paid with. He wanted him to get Leroy to a place where he could fight him.
Yeah.
And would fight him.
Right.
They figured out what the trigger was, and that was kidnapping Vanity. So
Yeah, I'd be pissed off about that too.
seriously.
Leroy's brother kind of like tries to help him out, gets knocked out.
Yep.
Hits his head fucking hard on on the tank from Jaws. He hits his head fucking hard.
That looked a little scary.
Yeah, like when he wakes him up, I'm like, I was waiting for him to be like, he's really fucked up. So he ends up fighting Shonuff in this scene, and it's exactly as you think it's going to go. Shonuff is kind of kicking the shit out of him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of toss him around. Leroy doesn't really stand much of a chance. This guy's much bigger than him too. I think in real life, I think Timac is 5'11" and Julius Carey's 6'7", and it's kind of clear in the movie. And then at one point, we get the dreaded realization of what exactly Shonuff can do. What can Shonuff do, Mark?
He, for some reason, has the ability to harness the glow.
He has the Sith glow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
The Sith glow, which is glowing red hands. And when he punches Leroy, it just lights up the entire screen like a firework.
The effect is good too.
Oh yeah,
the effect holds up. Like I hadn't seen this one in probably less than 10 years, but like watching it on Blu-ray for the first time, I was like, oh, is this going to be garbage? It's not. It looks good. It looks almost like cartoony to an extent.
Yeah, when I saw it before as a kid, I just assumed it was all very kind of like lightsaber-ish, very kind of glowing like that. But now, watching it now, it definitely seems more animated, almost like a Scott Pilgrim type of comic look to it, which I thought was really cool.
So he gets him basically dead to rights, and he is about to kill him by drowning him. Joey, take it from here.
Well, he's drowning him, and he's asking him who's the master. Who's the master? And he just wants him to say that Shonuff is the master. That's all he wants. That's his main motivation. And of course, while he's dunking him in the water, Leroy begins having flashbacks that he realizes what his master was trying to tell him the whole time, that he already is the master. And
He's realizing what that song told all of us early on.
Like, if you had just listened to the soundtrack about 2 hours ago, but and he pops up out of the water, is like, I'm the master. And then he has the power of the glow, and then the song starts playing. And it's an amazing film moment. I'm not even joking. When I was a little kid, I always thought that was the coolest thing I ever saw in my life.
Honestly, it still is.
Yeah.
Watching it last night at my age now, which is close to 50, from the second... Okay, so the whole fight scene at the end is great. Leroy kicks Shonuff through the wall at one point, and then he goes and looks and the body's not there, and you hear that wong. And from that moment forward to him pulling him out and I'm the master and the song kicking in, it's perfect movie making.
Yeah.
It is right up there with the best of anything. So yeah, he ends up grabbing his hand, like he tries to punch him, he grabs his hand, and he starts to crush his hand, and then we get some shots. Apparently, yellow and red make blue because when they start fighting, we get blue sparks, and he defeats him.
I love when he grabs his hand and Shonuff's just like, god dang.
yeah. There's a couple of great show enough moments, and I won't say the word, but he says blank please a couple times that are so fucking good, that are so fucking funny. But yeah, he ends up defeating him, but we kind of forget for a second there that Eddie Arcadian is still around.
Yep.
Right.
And Eddie Arcadian is armed with a gun. Mark, what ends up happening at this point?
He comes out and, he's been a goofball this entire movie, Eddie Arcadian, but now you see him as a threat.
Right.
And he says, enough with this kung fu shit. I have a gun. I'm taking care of this. He shoots Leroy right in the face.
Yeah. It was stark watching this last night because it was like I thought, you do think of him as a goofball, and he wants her to like take the tape and watch and show the tape and everything. But like this guy literally tries to murder this dude. I know people murder people over the dumbest shit every day on earth, but like I just thought, man, this is mean. This guy is like fucked in the head
over his ex-girlfriend's terrible music video.
Yeah,
all of this is over a terrible music video.
Joey, going back to something that was mentioned earlier in the movie, Leroy survives. How does he survive?
He catches the bullet in his teeth.
That's right. Spits it out, gets up, and then he hangs Arcadian up by his fucking pants, I think.
Yeah, hangs him on a hook. And Arcadia, being a businessman, is like, oh, we can take the show on the road.
Yeah.
you catch more bullets. This is amazing.
Puts him up on it. He Spider-Mans him. He puts him up on there for the cops to come, but only about a foot off the ground.
Yeah.
And then he rescues Laura. He goes with his brother. And then we end up in the end, we're back at Seventh Heaven. There's been this like recurring joke throughout the movie that Leroy is a virgin, and at one point he gives Vanity a friend of mine, that whole thing. And they talk about moves a couple times.
Yeah,
he shows up and over the loudness of her show, ends up saying, I want you to teach me some moves. And his brother's friend calls him a cornball. And this is a great moment too. His brother's like, that's my brother.
Yeah.
And he's the master. It's Smokey Robinson and somebody else.
Yep.
We go right into like so many 80s movies end on these corny ass fucking ballads. Like we just did on the show a couple months ago, Rambo First Blood Part 2. That ends on a corny fucking ballad. First Blood ends on a corny fucking ballad. There was something about that. And we end on a corny ballad. Everybody's dressed in white.
Yep.
And Vanity and Laura Charles and Leroy get in this little elevator thing and go up, and that's the end of The Last Dragon. So that's it. 40 years ago this month, The Last Dragon. Let's talk about the box office way back when.
All you care about is money.
March 22nd through the 24th of 1985. These are the 5 top films at the box office. This is a movie that I saw, number 5. This is a movie that I saw 2 times in the theaters.
Wow.
Ooh.
As a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think on TV, it almost is out of my memory. It opened the same week. It made $4 million. Baby, Secret of the Lost Legend.
I saw that on home video.
William Cat and a fucking brontosaurus. You ever
It's
see this
bad.
movie?
I've never seen that movie.
It's bad.
Yeah.
You revisit it. Like when I was a kid, I liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When you revisit it, that dinosaur puppet looks like ass. It's bad.
I've never seen a VHS of this that I remember. No DVD. This is a movie that almost to me feels like it's just lost in time. When I read that, I went, like I had a fucking sense memory.
Yeah.
Baby. Number 4, $5.2 million, The Last Dragon. The Last Dragon opened at number 4.
Nice.
Number 3, it had been out for 3 weeks. It made $6.1 million. We mentioned this a little bit earlier. Mask. With Cher and
Matt Tracker.
Matt Tracker. Number 2, it opened as well, $6.2 million. Porky's Revenge.
I've never seen a single Porky's.
I have never either.
Neither have I.
And, that's incredible. And I was talking to the Manster about that. And he said, we should check it out now, or we should do it on the show. And I said, I don't think I can watch Porky's as a 49-year-old guy. Like, I think my window for watching Porky's is over. Because, yes, there are movies that are like that from when I was a kid that I saw before that I can watch again because I've seen them before.
Yeah.
But I think it's creepy if I watch Porky's now, right?
Yeah.
Knowing what Porky's is about.
Yeah, I was a little too young for the original Porky's when it came out. So I was too young then, and as you state, too old now.
You've
to watch
aged
it.
out.
So, yeah.
All right, and at number 1, oh boy, you could just go through the 80s and just see these movies every couple of years. It opened up at $8.8 million, and it is my favorite of the series, Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. It's part 5. It's part 5. The Last Dragon had a $10 million budget, and I did not write down what it actually ended up making, but it did pretty well. It never made a sequel. It didn't break any bank, but I think it made its money back. So. All right, it's time. Let's rate this fucking thing.
Well, I have a microphone and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say!
Much like on my guest show, So Wizard Podcast, we rate 0 to 5. 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever. Quarter and half scale optional. Going to start off with Marcellus Reagan's. Going to go right to him and ask him, what do you give 1985's The Last Dragon?
So, again, I was like a prime age when this movie came out. Saw it multiple times in the theaters. This was like a black superhero movie. The villains were very much like Lex Luthor, Miss Taskmaster, and Otis. The hidden creature that you don't really see that eats people. Like, everything about this movie felt very comic bookish, and I love comic book movies. I always have. So this one just hit me right in the right spot. I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5. I love this movie, and it's something that I'm not sure how if you've never seen it before, I'm not sure how it would really hold up now compared to other action movies. But for its time, I think it's amazing.
All right, I'll go next. We'll leave Joey for last. I'm going to mirror Mark exactly a 4.5. I think this is fantastic. There are a ton of movies from when I was a kid that I loved and I watched later in life and go, ugh, I look back on that and go, well, I was a kid, right? Like fluoride in the water or something. I don't know. Something fucking affected my brain. But this one is just a fun movie from start to end. Mm-hmm. It has we talked about it before. It has a banging soundtrack, and not just a really good soundtrack, but the use of the songs in the movie is great. I get hyped up when I hear I get hyped up when I hear that. I get hyped up when I hear, when you got the glow, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Again, I can't mention it anymore, but the ending, the use of the song how it mirrors up to their fight at the end. Their fight at the end is great. Shonuff is an incredible villain. Julius Carry was awesome in this. Timac is a guy that we didn't really hear much from after that, but you know what? Like, you'll always remember him from this movie, right? Like at least he had his moment. And again, mirroring the fact that we did American Ninja and we talked about it tonight for the Patreon, Michael Dudikoff, like, the name, but nobody's really thinking much about Michael Dudikoff. Timac would have been nice to have seen a couple more movies with him in it. I think, because he was just a straight up martial artist. Michael Dudikoff was an actor who had to feign martial arts. And Timac was a martial artist who had to learn to act, and one of them did their assignment better than the other. Timac was a better actor than Michael Dudikoff is a good martial artist. Setting, not to sound corny, but I do think it's, Mark kind of mentioned it. I think it was cool to have a movie in the middle of all these movies where it's like, kind of like, Schwarzenegger and Stallone and all these, mm-hmm. These white action heroes, to have somebody different, Yeah, there was Bruce Lee movies in the 70s, but he died 12 years before this movie ever came out. So, it was nice to see somebody of a different race, different creed out there, and the whole movie, it's multicultural. It's really inclusive, and, it's a simple story, guy wants his girlfriend's shitty music video played on a show. Kid tries to kidnap a woman 6 times and she falls in love with a martial artist, but I don't know. It just works. I like all the characters in it. I like the interactions. I think it's funny. So 4.5. Joey, what do you got?
I mean, I'm a 5 out of 5. I think this movie's a fucking masterpiece.
Masterpiece. There you go.
I mean, because there's nothing faked about it. It's all genuine. Like, everybody is doing what they think makes the best movie, and it's dumb and goofy and fun and has awesome music and cool fight scenes, and it's infinitely quotable. It's memorable to this day. There's people that know what you're talking about. If you just talk about The Glow or Bruce Leroy, you don't have to explain it. People just know. And that's 40 years later.
Yeah.
That's the sign of a good movie.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. And I like Mark said, I don't know how this plays to anybody that walks in cold off the street in 2025 and tries to watch this for the first time, because there's things that are so 80s they don't make sense. But you know what? For me, seeing it as a kid, seeing it now, I still absolutely fucking love this movie, and I think it's a 5 out of 5.
Well, we're just going to end right there. No, really, great movie. Glad you guys came down. This is the first recording I've had in my house in quite a while. I'm glad it was you guys. It's been a couple years, but we had a great time last time with, I remember very well, Megaforce and Arena. And you guys should come down more often.
Yeah.
And I also always love the fact that you guys have done almost 600 shows on So Wizard, and you've only recorded together in person a handful of times.
Twice.
And I've got twice other than this, right?
Well, in person with me, Mark, and Aubrey has been twice.
Right.
Yeah.
And then two times overall, as the two of you have been here.
Yeah.
So I like that. I love that. So I'm glad you guys came down. I love your show. Tell everybody all about your show and how they can listen to it and check it out.
Everyone can check us out at SoulWizardPodcast.com. There's going to be a new episode on the website every single week. You can catch us on all your favorite podcatchers, Spotify, Good Pods, iTunes, all of that stuff. SoulWizardPodcast.com, and you can catch us on the socials at Soul Wizard Podcast.
I was recently on an episode, if you want to go back a week or two, where we discussed a movie. I won't tell you, one of us at the table hated that movie. I won't tell you what, if you haven't listened to it yet. We talked about the Stephen King adaptation, The Monkey, and it was the three of us, and one of us here absolutely hated it. And I think you should go back and listen to that episode and start listening to So Wizard if you don't. But yeah, definitely check that one out. And
we got a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of movies coming out. We're coming up on our 11-year anniversary in August. So.
Jesus. 600 episodes, almost 11 years. Wow. All right. Well, I love you guys. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming down here, driving down from Western Mass to talk a couple of 1985 action classics with a question mark. That's for American Ninja. Until next time, see ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!